Let's vote. The yeas are 162, the noes are 2.
Ms. Linda T. Sanchez of California. Off no on aye for Ms. Linda T. Sanchez of California.
On this vote, the yeas are 163, the noes are 262. The amendment is not adopted. Committee will come to order. Chair requests that members remove audible conversation so the committee may conclude its work. Pursuant to the rule, it is now in order to consider a final period of general debate which shall not exceed 20 minutes, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking member of the Committee on the Budget. The gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Ryan, and the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Van Hollen, each will control 10 minutes. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, let me just start off by thanking all of the staff and the minority and their staff for the hard work. I want to congratulate Mr. Van Hollen for bringing a substitute to the floor. The minority does not need to do that, and I think it's good for the process and the system that they do that. In particular, I want to thank our Budget Committee staff, Alex Stoddard, Andy Morton, Austin Smythe, Charlotte Avancic, Connor Sweeney, Courtney Reinhardt, David Logan, Dennis Teddy, Dick McGee, Eric Davis, Garrett Lansing, Jane Lee, Jenna Spielman, Jim Hertz, John Burks, John Romito, Jose Guillen, Justin Bogie, Marsha Douglas, Matt Hoffman, Nicole Foltz, Paul Rastusha, Stephanie Parks, Steve Spruill, Ted McCann, Tim Flynn, Vanessa Day. I also want to thank our personal office staff and the people who are over there at the Ford building that not everybody sees, but that work for the Congressional Budget Office. I had the privilege to meet with them last December while they were busy putting the payroll tax numbers together. This year, the President's budget came late. Easter came early. Everyone was crunched. We worked them overtime, very hard. Now, we don't always like the estimates they necessarily give us, but I want to thank them for their dedication and their professionalism in making this process work. And I'd like to include in the record, with unanimous consent, the names of those who we wish to thank at CBO, in addition to our personal office staff.
The gentleman's request is covered under the general leave.
With that, let me reserve the balance of my time.
General reserves. Chair again requests that members cease audible conversation. Gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by thanking all the members of the Budget Committee, Republicans and Democrats alike. We had a very good debate in the Budget Committee. We had a good debate here on the floor, and I want to thank all our colleagues. We obviously have deep differences, but I think everybody's conducted this debate in a civil manner. I also want to thank the chairman for the way he conducted proceedings in the committee, and to all the staff, Republican and Democratic staff. I want to thank our team headed by Tom Kahn. Many of them are here on the floor. As I think everybody knows, they've spent many, many, many late nights working on this budget, and so I salute all of them, as well as the folks over at the Congressional Budget Office. We obviously think that this budget proposed by our Republican colleagues is the wrong choice for America, and I now yield 3 minutes to the distinguished Democratic whip, my friend, our colleague from the state of Maryland, Mr. Hoyer.
Minority whip recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Ryan, who is an outstanding member of this body and my friend, and who is one of the most able among us. Mr. Van Hollen, who has been my close friend for many years and one of the most able among us. I've just spent time thanking our staffs for the work that they have done. And I share their view that our staffs have worked mightily. And indeed, there has been much debate. Tragically, the product we will produce today is far less than the sum of our parts in this body. It is, I would suggest to you, a product unworthy of the intellect that has been applied to it. It is a product, indeed, that I think will hurt America, not help America. It is a product that is too much politics and too little policy. It is a product of which I think this House cannot be proud. It is a product that relies on substantially undermining the security of seniors. And I say that as one who has said repeatedly that in reaching a fiscally sustainable path, we must deal with entitlements. We need to do so together. And we need to do so in a balanced way, but there is no balance in this proposal. Seniors, middle class, vulnerable, working Americans are asked to pay the price of this agreement. And indeed, not only are they asked to pay the price, but the best off among us is asked to do the least. That's not the America of which we are all proud, that has worked together, sacrificed together at times, to come together to make a joint contribution to the welfare of this country. This product is less than the sum of its parts. This product would undermine the guarantee of Medicare. Again, I say we need to deal with entitlements, that not in a way, I tell my friends in this House, that undermines the guarantee of senior security. And I would say to you, family security, so their children will know their parents are secure. Ladies and gentlemen of this House, we had an agreement. I think that the gentleman from Wisconsin is an honorable man. He is my friend. I like Paul Ryan. But I am sorely disappointed, I tell my friend. We came to having a difference of opinion on what the number ought to be for this year's budget. You had a lower number. We had a higher number. We almost took the nation to the brink, and matter of fact, we took it to the brink of default before we agreed. Can I have one additional minute?
Yes, I yield the gentleman another minute.
We came to the brink of default in this great nation, the most credit-worthy nation on the face of the earth, that was downgraded as a result of us failing to get to an agreement. But when we got to an agreement, it was an agreement. And if we are able to rely on one another's word, we ought to keep our agreements. And it simply said the 302A, which simply means for the public, the dollars we were going to spend on discretionary spending this fiscal year coming would be $1,047 billion. That's a lot of money. No doubt about it. Your side didn't like it. My side didn't like it. But we agreed upon it. That agreement is not carried out in this budget. How can we rely in the future on such an agreement? It asks old people to pay the bill, seniors to pay the bill, vulnerable to pay the bill, but not the wealthiest in America. Puts Medicare at risk and does not get us to where we want. In fact, it adds $10 trillion, and then some magical formula, 30 additional seconds, you got it?
I yield the gentleman another 30 seconds.
It adds some magical formula that somewhere out there, like waste, fraud, and abuse, we're going to find the money to pay for the $10 trillion in tax cuts. That's by the extension of the Bush tax cuts and the 35 to 25. Some magical way we're going to eliminate preference items. Doesn't say which ones. Doesn't say who's going to pay the bill. Ladies and gentlemen, we can do better. The parts in this body are very good on both sides of the aisle. Good intellect, good instincts, and a love for this country. We can do better. Let's reject this budget. Let's do some real work. Let's come together and put this country on a fiscally sustainable path without harming our people. And I yield back the balance of my time.
Time the gentleman's expired. Gentleman from Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I'd like to yield 2 minutes to our distinguished Majority Whip, Mr. McCarthy.
Majority Whip is recognized for 2 minutes.
Well, I thank the chairman of the Rules of the Budget Committee for the work that he has done on both sides. We've watched a lot of debate. This floor is supposed to be devised to have the power of the idea win. Mr. Chairman, we watched the President's budget come here and unfortunately unite us, and nobody thought that was the direction to go. We watched history be made on this floor for many years. It's always said that history repeats itself. In my short lifespan, if I'm really looking at where America stands, it stands much where we stood in 1980. A choice between two futures. Have you ever thought for a moment the similarities to 1980 to today? In 1980, America was afraid that Japan was going to surpass us in our economy. Today, we have fear of China and India being larger. In 1980, Iran was holding Americans hostage. Today, they want to close the strait. They want to develop missiles that hold the world hostage. We had an energy crisis. Today, the price of gasoline is the highest it's ever been. Every generation in America has been able to improve on the generation before it. But do you realize in 1980 was the first time a majority of Americans believed the best days were behind them? 50.4%. Today it's at 74%. We had a challenge in our foreign policy. We literally had a president put a sweater on and tell us to turn the heater down. Our biggest challenge is our debt that faces us. Well, you know what? Today we have a choice of two futures, just as we did in 1980. So the choice today is, do you want that European model? Or do you want something that faces our challenge, honest to the American people, and rises to the occasion? When Ronald Reagan was sworn in his inaugural, he said, "Our willingness to believe in ourselves and our capacity to perform great deeds, to believe that together with God's help we can and will resolve the problems that now confront us. After all, why shouldn't we believe that? We are Americans." You know, Winston Churchill once said of America, you can always count on them to do what's right after they've exhausted every other option. We have exhausted every other option. This is an opportunity for a new path, for a new future. I yield back.
Time gentleman expired. Gentleman from Maryland.
I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I'd like to yield 1 minute to the distinguished Majority Leader of the House, Mr. Cantor.
Majority Leader is recognized.
Thank the Chairman. Thank the gentleman from Wisconsin. Mr. Chairman, I rise today in support of the House Republican budget resolution offered by my friend and colleague, gentleman from Wisconsin, Chairman Paul Ryan. Mr. Chairman, people in this country are looking, they are desperate to see a strong signal from Washington that we are prepared to make the tough decisions necessary to address our nation's fiscal crisis. Today, we will pass our budget that proposes real, honest solutions to create a stronger economy and a more certain future for our country. Our budget takes bold steps that will get the fiscal house in order and will manage down the debt and deficit. It also strengthens the entitlement programs, which are the biggest drivers of our debt. It reforms the tax code and prevents devastating defense cuts from taking place, all without raising taxes. Mr. Chairman, we're seizing the opportunity to address what even the minority has admitted is the most predictable economic crisis in our nation's history. Unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, those on the other side of the aisle seem to refuse to be able to deal with this crisis and actually propose a solution. The Democratic-controlled Senate has failed to pass a budget in over 1,000 days, shirking its responsibility to the American people. And the President has refused to put forth any serious solution to pay down the historic debt and deficit that he helped create. In fact, the President's budget will actually aggravate the nation's problems.
President Obama's budget saddles the American people with massive tax increases, puts more burden on job creators, weakens our military, and fails to provide a plan to save our entitlement programs. I believe these policies will fundamentally change our nation for the worst. In contrast, Mr. Chairman, our budget restores the system of free enterprise that has made America the greatest nation in the world. We propose a simpler, fairer, and more competitive tax code that will actually foster economic growth and job creation. Instead of picking winners and losers, our plan levels the playing field. Our budget lowers tax rates for all taxpayers, broadens the base, and gets rid of loopholes and preferences so we can grow the economy and see more jobs created. Mr. Chairman, our budget seeks to save our entitlement programs because we actually produce a plan to solve the disproportionate cause of our deficits, the health care entitlements. This commitment to lead, this commitment to find solutions and to actually put a plan in place is what has been missing from the debate in this town. And we ask our colleagues on the other side of the aisle to join us in that commitment to actually adopt a plan so that we can begin to make progress and send a signal to the American people that we get it, that we are here to help solve the problem. Mr. Chairman, House Republicans are offering the American people a choice in terms of the direction this country will take. And I thank Chairman Ryan and the members of his Budget Committee for their hard work to produce this pro-growth, solutions-oriented budget. This document does begin to address the serious fiscal challenges we face and grow the economy so that our children have the same hope, opportunity, and ability to achieve success that our parents gave to us and their parents to them. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could ask how much time remains?
Gentleman from Maryland has 4½ minutes remaining. The gentleman from Wisconsin has 5½ minutes remaining.
All right, thank you. Is the gentleman going to close? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I thank our colleagues for a vigorous debate, and I would remind everybody that just a few years ago, when the President was sworn in, our economy was in a total freefall. The bottom was falling out. We had negative 8% GDP, over 800,000 jobs being lost every month. And as a result of extraordinary actions that were taken, along with the tenacity of the American people, we have climbed out of that hole that we inherited. We have now had 24 months of consecutive private sector job growth. Let's keep that growth going. The budget that the President proposed, the budget the Democrats proposed, did that. It expanded investments in jobs. The Republican budget will cut our investment in transportation next year by 46% when we have 17% unemployment in the construction industry. Independent analysts have said that their budget will cost us 1 million jobs this year and cost us 2 million jobs next year. That's not what we need. The Congressional Budget Office has said that over 1/3 of our current deficit is because of underemployment. Why would we want to add to underemployment as the Republican budget does? Now, in the long term, we've got to get our deficits under control. The issue is not whether we need to do that. The issue is how. As the previous speaker said, the question is the choice. Our Republican colleagues overwhelmingly have signed this pledge saying they're not willing to close one tax loophole, not one penny, for the purpose of reducing the deficit. And when you say to folks making over $1 million a year, you don't have to share any more responsibility in reducing the deficit, when you say to big oil companies we're going to keep going with the taxpayer subsidies, you know what? You've got to take out the budget on everybody else at the expense of seniors, at the expense of middle-income taxpayers, at the expense of important investments in our our economy, and that's what their budget does. That's why it ends the Medicare guarantee. They're proposing to give seniors a deal that's a lot worse than we have for members of Congress. Worse than the one for members of Congress, seniors on Medicare. They cut Medicaid by $800 billion, more than a third of the program by 2022, putting seniors and disabled individuals at risk. They cut education investments and would allow interest rates on student loans to double this July. Those are not decisions that we make if we want a strong economy and a robust future for our children and grandchildren. So this is all about choices, and we don't think that it's bold to provide tax breaks to millionaires while you're ending the Medicare guarantee for seniors. We don't think it's courageous to protect big taxpayer giveaways to companies that ship American jobs overseas while we're cutting investments in education and science and research and infrastructure right here at home. We don't think it's fair to provide another round of tax cuts to folks at the very top. Tax Policy Center says it's going to be close to $400,000 on average for people making over $1 million. We don't think it's fair to do that, financing those tax cuts by increasing taxes on middle-income Americans. And I would challenge our colleagues, show us how you make up for $4.6 trillion in lost revenue from dropping that tax rate without socking it to middle-income taxpayers. So far, our Republican colleagues have been absolutely incapable of showing us that they're not shifting the burden to middle-income taxpayers. So, Mr. Chairman, it is all about choices. Unfortunately, we didn't pass the alternative Democratic budget. Let's not make the mistake of passing this Republican budget plan. We can do better. We can do what bipartisan groups have done, take a balanced approach, cut spending, also cut the loopholes for special interests. Let's do it in a way that the American people would say, that brings us together rather than apart. And so I would urge rejection of this budget. It makes the wrong choice for America, and I thank the chairman and I thank my colleagues.
The time of the gentleman has expired. Gentleman from Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, I'll yield myself the remainder of the time and address the House from the well.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thanks, Jay. Mr. Chairman, we are bearing witness to history this week. Across the street, we are witnessing what could be the end of bureaucrat-controlled health care. What we are on the verge of witnessing is a powerful reaffirmation of the American idea, and we are finally having the debate we need to have. Our rights come to us naturally. They come from God and nature, not from government. This health care law is the latest and perfect example of the notion that government is now needed to grant us new rights. And if that is the case, then government has authority to ration, to regulate, and to redistribute exactly how we exercise these new rights like health care. And if these new government-granted rights conflict with our constitutional rights and liberties, well then, such is the sacrifice needed in the name of progress, or so the thinking goes. Across the street, we are witnessing what could be a rejection of this line of thinking. The new health care law, which asserts unlimited power to the federal government to decide for Americans how they should go about getting their health care, simply is not compatible with the Constitution. But the justices who are considering this case, they've raised a very good point. If this is the end of bureaucrat-controlled health care, what comes next? And if you listen to them, you may hear a pretty dim view of Congress's ability to solve this problem. With respect, I would suggest that they take a look at what we are accomplishing here in this body today. Here, in this chamber, we are witnessing the growing momentum of a new approach, one that maintains a critical role for government, but ultimately puts the American people in charge where they belong. For the second year in a row, we are passing a budget that outlines a new approach to Medicare. We keep the protections that made Medicare a guaranteed promise for seniors throughout the years. But this is what we say to the bureaucrats who have mismanaged this program into bankruptcy. Enough! Your approach doesn't work. Government has never come up with the magic formula to micromanage America, let alone lower costs and improve quality. It's time to put 50 million seniors, not 15 bureaucrats, in charge of their own health care decisions. Forcing insurance companies to compete, that's the only way to guarantee quality, affordable health care for seniors that lasts for generations. That's the answer to what comes next. Let's keep building on the growing bipartisan consensus on how to improve patient-centered health care reform. But putting our trust in Americans, it goes beyond health care. It is what this entire budget is all about. We get government bureaucrats out of the business of picking winners and losers in the economy, because Americans should make their own decisions about what kind of car they drive or what kind of light bulb they use. And we give power over the safety net programs to the states, because we believe that governments that are closest to the people are in the best position to design programs for their unique communities, to get people onto lives of self-sufficiency and upward mobility. When we lower tax rates by closing special interest loopholes, we're saying we in Washington don't need to micromanage people's decisions through the tax code. Let people keep more of their own hard-earned dollars. Let them decide how to spend it. Economic growth, jobs, upward mobility, opportunity. These are what we're striving for, just like our parents did the same for us. Mr. Chairman, it is so rare in American politics to arrive at a moment in which the debate revolves around the fundamental nature of American democracy and the social contract. But that is exactly where we are today. One approach gives more power to unelected bureaucrats, takes more from hard-working taxpayers to fuel the expansion of government, and commits our nation to a future of debt and decline. This approach is proving unworkable in Congress, in our courts, and in our communities. This contrast with our budget could not become clearer. We put our trust in citizens, not in the government. Our budget returns powers to individuals, to families, to communities. As these choices become clearer, today's budget is a vote of confidence for the American experiment. We think that putting our trust in the American people will renew their trust in us. We think Americans should control their destinies, and we trust them to make the right choices about the future of our country. Mr. Chairman, we think America's on the wrong track. We believe the President is bringing us toward a debt crisis and a welfare state in decline. We are offering the nation a choice. We are offering the nation a better way forward, and we're offering the nation a plan to renew America and the American idea. Mr. Chairman, let's have that vote. I yield back my time.
All time for debate has expired. Under the rule, the committee rises.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union has had under consideration House Concurrent Resolution 112, and pursuant to House Resolution 597, I report the concurrent resolution back to the House.
The Chair of the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union reports that the committee has had under consideration House Concurrent Resolution 112, and pursuant to House Resolution 597, reports the concurrent resolution back to the House. Under the rule, the previous question is ordered. The question is on agreeing to the concurrent resolution. Under Clause 10 of Rule 20, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 15-minute vote.
After defeating numerous alternatives, the House moves on to final passage on the fiscal year 2013 budget proposal. The Republican plan would reduce spending in 2013. Spending would fall from $3.6 trillion this year to $3.5 trillion next year. That's $187 billion less than the President's plan. Also in this plan, it would repeal the 2010 health care law and reform Medicare, among other things. Writing about this Republican plan, David Hawkins in CQ writes specifically that the bill instructs 6 committees: Agriculture, Energy and Commerce, Financial Services, Judiciary, Oversight and Government Reform, and Ways and Means, to spend April finding a collective $261 billion in cuts to mandatory programs over 10 years. He writes those recommendations will then be put to a vote in the House in early May, a move that is designed by Republicans to put big-time pressure on the Democratic Senate to respond, if not before the election, then soon thereafter. So this is final passage on the budget proposal, and it's the last legislative work in the House for today and for the next 2 weeks, as both the House and the Senate will be in recess until Monday, April 16th.
this vote, the yeas are 228 and the nays are 191. The concurrent resolution is agreed to. The chair will receive a message.
Say your line now. Right now.
The chair will receive a message.
Mr. Speaker, a message from the Senate.
Mr. Speaker,
Madam Secretary.
I have been directed by the Senate to inform the House that the Senate has passed without amendment H.R. 4281, cited as the Surface Transportation Extension Act of 2012.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that when the House adjourns today, it adjourn to meet at 11 a.m. tomorrow. And when the House adjourns on that day, it adjourn to meet at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, April 3rd, 2012. And when the House adjourns on that day, it adjourn to meet at 11 a.m. on Friday, April 6th, 2012. And when the House adjourns on that day, it adjourn to meet again at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, April 10th, 2012. And when the House adjourns on that day, it adjourn to meet again at 2 p.m. on Friday, April 13th, 2012. And when the House adjourns on that day, it adjourn to meet at 2 p.m. on Monday, April 16th, 2012.
Without objection, so ordered.
The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable the Speaker, House of Representatives, Sir, pursuant to Section 703C of the Public Interest Declassification Act of 2000, I hereby reappoint Mr. David E. Skaggs of Longmont, Colorado, to the Public Interest Declassification Board. Thank you for your consideration of this reappointment. Signed sincerely, Nancy Pelosi, House Democratic Leader.
The chair will entertain 1-minute request. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and rise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize a distinguished company from the Houston area, Camden Property Trust. Camden was recently recognized by Fortune magazine as one of the 100 best companies to work for. This is not the first time they've been named to such an esteemed list, as Camden consistently ranks among the most desirable places to work in America. Camden is the only multifamily real estate company to be named to this prestigious list. They employ nearly 1,800 people in 13 states. Camden provides conservative financial policies and a positive, dynamic work environment. Camden is also committed to helping employees improve their personal and professional lives through outstanding training programs, mentoring, networking, and community service. This commitment has helped Camden become a leader in their industry and a valued asset to the Houston area. Mr. Speaker, I applaud their high standards and wish them continued success. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Florida rise?
I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today because I made a promise to Trayvon. I made a promise to his mother. I promised to stand up for Trayvon. I promised that I would rise every day and let the world know how long it has been since he was murdered. Today marks 33 days since Trayvon's death, 33 days without justice. I want to let Trayvon know that I'm going home this evening. I'm going home because boats have finished for the week, but I will be back. The vigil will not stop. It will continue. Every day the House is in recess, I will tweet to the world an update on how many days have passed without justice. And this Sunday, I will personally host a rally back home, Trayvon's home in Miami, Florida. Mr. Speaker, I want Trayvon to know that he is not forgotten. He is missed and he is loved. And we will continue to stand up for justice for Trayvon. Thank you. I yield back the balance of my time.
Yields back. And for what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas rise? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As co-chairman of the House Explosive Ordnance Disposal Caucus and as a former Army EOD tech, I address you today with a heavy heart. On Tuesday this week, Staff Sergeant Joseph D'Augustine was killed in Afghanistan by an IED. He was 29 years old. Staff Sergeant D'Augustine was an EOD tech in the United States Marine Corps with 4 tours of duty in Afghanistan and Iraq to his credit. He enlisted in the Marine Corps the day after he graduated from Waldwick High School in New Jersey in 2001. As an EOD tech, Staff Sergeant D'Augustine displayed the full extent of his bravery, clearing explosive threats, defending the lives of his fellow Marines, soldiers, airmen, and sailors. EOD techs like Staff Sergeant D'Augustine play an invaluable role in securing our freedom and combating terrorism, but too often their heroic deeds go unreported. Staff Sergeant D'Augustine is survived by his parents and 3 sisters. I'm eternally grateful for Staff Sergeant D'Augustine's service to our country and for all the brave men and women who defend our freedoms at home and abroad as members of the armed services. On behalf of the Congressional EOD Caucus and the Inter-Service EOD family, our thoughts and prayers are with the family of Staff Sergeant Joseph D'Augustine. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and with that I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. And for what purpose does the gentleman from California? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today on a matter of great urgency for America's students and their families. In just 3 months, if Congress does not act, millions of Americans will be thrown deeper into debt. That's because on July 1st, the interest rates on need-based student loans will double from 3.4% to 6.8%. This interest rate hike will hit 7 million Americans who are already in financial need. With rates at historic lows, for the Congress to let these interest rates double is highway robbery. Congress should not require students and families who can least afford it to pay twice as much in interest on the same loans they got a year before at lower rates. Congress should help make college more affordable, not more expensive. Congress should help families to get out from under the crushing debt, not pile on more. Tens of thousands of students have asked Congress to act, but their pleas to help have been met with silence from the Republicans in Congress. Silence. Silence is not what they need. Action is what they need. Only Congress can set the rates for these student loans. The clock is ticking, applications are being made to college, and the time to act is now. Congress should not let the interest student rate loans go up. Congress should not let the interest rates double on these families and these students.
Gentleman yields back. And for what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to speak to the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize an Indiana-born and bred entrepreneur who exemplifies innovation and dedication. Charlotte Lucas, along with her husband Forrest, founded Lucas Oil Products in 1989. Under her leadership, Lucas Oil quickly established itself as a top-selling additive line in the trucking and automotive retail industry. To Indiana, Charlotte is still the good-natured Hoosier who always enjoys meeting new people and knows the importance of being there for people in need. Marked by common sense and a commitment to philanthropic interests, her leadership embodies the qualities emblazoned on the Hoosier spirit itself. You know, there's a slogan at Lucas Oil, Mr. Speaker, that says, quote, "It works," unquote. Well, I think the same can be said of Charlotte. Working on behalf of children, the elderly, race car drivers and their family, and many more other causes, she has provided so many with a better place to live, work, and raise a family. Whatever Charlotte does, it works. As a man of faith, I believe we were put on this earth to love one another and to make the best of the gifts the Lord has provided. And when I look at Charlotte, her husband Forrest, and how she shared her good fortune with our world, all I can say is amen. Charlotte Lucas exemplifies the American dream in every way, and I am proud to honor her on her birthday in recognition of her devotion to her family, friends, employees, and our whole Hoosier community. And I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Texas rise?
Unanimous consent.
Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.